Every state in America is organized around a center, a capital, a skyline, a gravity well that pulls everything else into orbit. Texas has Houston and Dallas. Illinois has Chicago. New York has New York City. But New Jersey has nothing. No dominant city. No center of gravity. It is the most densely populated state in the country. 1,263 people per the square mile, more than any other state. And it is the only one with no anchor at all. Its largest city, Newark, has just 311,000 people. That is smaller than Tulsa, Oklahoma. Instead of one metropolis, New Jersey has 566 separate municipalities, each running itself like a tiny sovereign country. And that is not an accident. It is the result of a geographic setup that was locked in before anyone drew a single border. Pull up a map of New Jersey and trace the border. Atlantic Ocean to the east, Delaware Bay to the south, the Delaware River running the entire western edge, the Hudson River to the northeast. Almost the entire state is outlined by water. The only exception is a short, straight survey line in the north. New Jersey is functionally a peninsula. But unlike Florida, which faces outward toward open water and builds inward from its own coastline, New Jersey faces inward, directly toward two of the largest cities on Earth. New York City sits on one border. Philadelphia sits on the other. These are not distant influences. They are immediate, physical presences. Stand on the Palisades in Bergen County, and Manhattan's skyline fills the entire eastern horizon. Stand on the Camden waterfront, and Philadelphia's City Hall Tower looms directly across the river. No other state in America shares its borders with two cities of this scale, this close, pressing in from opposite sides. From the very first colonial settlements, the land between those two cities did not develop around itself. It developed around them. The rivers that define New Jersey's shape did not create isolation the way mountains or deserts do in other states. They created dependence. Every harbor, every ferry landing, every bridge that would eventually span those rivers pointed outward, toward someone else's economy, someone else's downtown, someone else's skyline. The water that surrounded New Jersey did not protect it. The water aimed it, like a lens focusing light toward two bright points on either side. From the very beginning, everything built in New Jersey was built to serve somewhere else, and the proof is in every road, every rail line, and every highway in the state. The first canals cut across New Jersey to connect New York Harbor to the Delaware River. The first railroads did the same, not to build New Jersey towns, but to move cargo between other people's cities. The Camden and Amboy Railroad, one of the earliest in the country, was built in the 1830s for exactly this purpose, linking the port of New York to the port of Philadelphia across the shortest possible overland route. New Jersey was the bridge, not the destination. When the automobile age arrived, the pattern repeated at a much larger scale. The New Jersey Turnpike, the Garden State Parkway, Interstate 95, all designed as throughways, arteries for moving people and goods from one destination to another, with New Jersey serving as the hallway in between. Each generation of transportation technology layered on top of the last, and every layer reinforced the same logic. Cross the state as quickly as possible to reach somewhere else. Travelers entering from the north are greeted by the dark basalt cliffs of the Palisades, rising 500 feet above the Hudson. Then, almost immediately, the landscape shifts to toll plazas, refineries, container ports, and interchanges stacked on top of each other like concrete knots. The air smells like jet fuel and asphalt. Storage tanks line the horizon like metal drums stretching to the edge of sight. This is what most Americans see of New Jersey, the 10-mile stretch between the George Washington Bridge and Newark Airport. A blur of smokestacks and exit ramps glimpsed through a car window at 60 miles per hour. The hallway between destinations. But drive just a few miles off the Turnpike and you reach the Pine Barrens, over 1 million acres of sandy, pine-covered wilderness with tea-colored streams and settlements so sparse they feel closer to rural Maine than to the industrial corridor 10 minutes away. The ground here is almost pure sand, deposited by ancient oceans, and it sits on top of one of the largest underground aquifers on the East Coast. Pygmy pine forests grow in dense, low tangles. Orchids bloom in bogs where the water runs the color of dark tea, stained by cedar tannins. It is one of the largest stretches of undeveloped land between Boston and Richmond, and it exists inside the most densely populated state in America. The state that everyone passes through is a state almost nobody actually sees. And if that kind of geographic story interests you, subscribe. Because here is what that corridor roll actually cost New Jersey, something no other state has ever had to deal with. New Jersey has 566 municipalities, over 600 school districts, 186 fire districts, each one with its own government, its own police force, its own tax base, its own zoning code. A state smaller than many individual counties in the American West runs more independent local governments than most countries. This happened because New Jersey never developed a dominant city that could absorb surrounding communities. With no center of gravity, no Chicago, no Atlanta, no Denver pulling everything inward, every town defended its autonomy. Ethnic neighborhoods, religious communities, and economic classes preserved their identities through hyperlocal control. They built their own school systems, drew their own borders, hired their own administrators. Italian communities in one township, Irish in the next, Jewish in another, each one determined to run its own affairs without interference from neighbors a mile down the road. In a state where no single city could claim authority over the rest, every small town became its own capital. The result is the defining paradox of New Jersey. The state ranks near the top in median household income, roughly $104,000, almost 28% above the national median. But it also carries the highest effective property tax rate in America, around 2.2 to 2.5% of home value, with average annual bills above $10,000. In some Bergen County towns, annual property tax bills exceed $15,000 on a modest 3-bedroom house. The fragmentation means staggering redundancy. 566 sets of administrators, over 600 superintendents, overlapping bureaucracies layered on top of each other across just 8,700 square miles. Two neighboring towns might each run their own police department, their own public works crew, their own municipal court, separated by a border that is nothing more than a line on a surveyor's map running down the middle of a residential street. Residents demand excellent local schools, responsive local police, pristine local roads, and then they are stunned by the bill. Nearly half of New Jersey residents say they want to leave. Between 2020 and 2025, the state lost a net 192,000 residents to other states. It ranks number 1 in America for outbound household moves, even as it remains one of the wealthiest states in the country. The moving trucks head south to the Carolinas, west to Pennsylvania, down to Florida, anywhere the property taxes are lower, which is almost everywhere. People are fleeing from prosperity, not because New Jersey is failing, but because the cost of its own structure has become unbearable. So New Jersey built a system where every tiny town runs itself like its own country. But that system created something else no other state has. A collection of laws and customs so strange that New Jersey feels like it operates on different rules than the rest of America. Start with the jug handle. At intersections across the state, New Jersey replaced left turns with looping right-hand ramps. To go left, you veer right, loop around, and cross the main road at a signal. It is a traffic engineering solution used almost nowhere else this systematically, and it bewilders every out-of-state driver who encounters it for the first time. The logic is sound. It keeps through traffic moving by eliminating left turn lanes on high-speed roads. But the experience of making your first jug handle turn, watching your destination disappear behind you as you swing wide to the right, is a rite of passage that every visitor to New Jersey shares. Then the gas pumping ban. In 1949, full-service gas station owners in New Jersey, threatened by cheaper self-service competitors undercutting their prices, lobbied the state legislature for protection. The result was the Retail Gasoline Dispensing Safety Act. The stated justification was fire safety. The actual motivation was protectionism. One economic analysis described it as a naked effort to block competition. Oregon had the same law for decades, but Oregon repealed it in 2023. Now New Jersey stands completely alone, the only state in the entire country where it is illegal for a driver to pump their own gas. And here is the inversion that captures everything about this place. Residents do not want it repealed. Polls consistently show majority support for the ban. Drivers will sit in their cars on a freezing January night, waiting for an attendant to walk over and grab the nozzle, and they consider this a luxury rather than an inconvenience. A law born from protectionist economics became a point of cultural pride. New Jerseyans absorbed a restriction into their identity and made it a feature. If you want to understand how New Jersey thinks, start there. But the strangest opposite of all is not a traffic pattern or a gas station law. It is hidden in the state's own name. Everyone assumes Garden State is ironic, a joke nickname for a place famous for smokestacks, highway interchanges, and chemical plants. But 15 to 17% of New Jersey's land is active farmland, over 720,000 acres. Cranberry bogs stretch across the Pine Barrens. Tomato farms line the southern coastal plain. Blueberry operations cover thousands of acres in Burlington and Atlantic counties. The nickname is not a joke. It is genuinely earned, rooted in agricultural dominance that traces back to the 18th century and continues today. New Jersey is simultaneously the most densely populated state in America and a real, functioning agricultural producer. That combination exists nowhere else, and it is possible because of geographic compression unlike anything else in the country. New Jersey contains 4 distinct physiographic regions: ridge and valley, highlands, Piedmont, and coastal plain, packed into a space just 150 miles long and 70 miles wide. Other states spread their geographic variety across hundreds of thousands of square miles. New Jersey compresses it into 8,700. Drive north to south and the landscape transforms completely every 20 minutes, from rugged Appalachian ridges to rolling suburban hills to flat coastal sand. That compression is the root cause of everything in this video. It is why no single dominant city ever emerged. The land changes too fast for any one place to claim the whole state. It is why 566 municipalities developed instead of a few large ones. Each pocket of geography bred its own community. And it is why the state feels fundamentally different every time you cross a county line. New Jersey is not one place pretending to be many. It is many places that happen to share a border. New Jersey ended up with something no other state really has: an identity that belongs entirely to someone else. About 10% of New Jersey's entire workforce commutes into a single destination, Manhattan. Not 10% of one county. 10% of the whole state crossing the border every morning and returning every night. The state has the 3rd longest average commute time in America, around 30 minutes one way, and one of the highest rates of public transit commuting in the country, second only to New York in some analyses. NJ Transit alone is one of the largest public transit systems in the nation, moving hundreds of thousands of riders every weekday on trains, buses, and light rail. That shatters the stereotype of a car-dependent suburb sprawling mindlessly around shopping malls and cul-de-sacs. But here is the deeper inversion. Because so many of New Jersey's highest earners commute out, the state is functionally subsidizing its neighbors. The income is generated in New York. The spending happens in New York. The restaurants, the Broadway shows, the retail. All of it feeds someone else's tax base. But the property taxes are paid in New Jersey. The home values and the crushing tax burden attached to them reflect proximity to someone else's economy. New Jersey is rich because of its neighbors and broke because of its neighbors at the same time. The wealth flows in as paychecks and flows out as mortgage payments and tax bills, leaving the state perpetually running on a treadmill it did not build. But if New Jersey is really just a suburb of other people's cities, if it has no center, no dominant metropolis, no singular identity, how does it hold together at all? New Jersey has between 450 and 500 classic diners, more per capita than any other state. It is widely recognized as the diner capital of the world. Stainless steel and neon at highway intersections, 24-hour coffee, chrome interiors, menus that span 10 pages, pancakes to moussaka to disco fries at 3 in the morning. The exteriors glow against dark parking lots, their neon signs reflecting off wet asphalt after a rain. Inside, the light is always a little too bright, the booths a little too vinyl, the coffee always ready before you finish asking. In a state with no central city, no shared downtown, no singular public gathering point, the diner became the connective tissue. Think about what most states have. A downtown, a main street, a public square where people from different neighborhoods cross paths. New Jersey's 566 municipalities never built one. So the diner filled the gap. Neutral ground where a trucker, a commuter in a suit, a teenager after prom, and a retired couple could all sit at the same counter and order from the same laminated menu. The diner did not belong to any single town or class. It belonged to the road, and in New Jersey, the road is the only thing that connects everyone. But even this is under pressure. About 150 diners have closed in the last decade. Rising rents, changing tastes, the same economic squeeze that is pushing residents out of the state entirely. Where a chrome-sided diner once anchored a highway intersection, a chain restaurant, or an empty lot takes its place. The institutions that held the fragmented state together are themselves fragmenting. And that brings us to what New Jersey actually is, and why it might be the most important opposite in America. New Jersey moves the freight. It houses the commuters. It connects the entire Northeast corridor. It grows the food. It refines the fuel. It runs one of the largest transit systems in the country and hosts ports and airports that serve tens of millions of people who never think of New Jersey as anything more than a punchline. It is economically indispensable and culturally invisible. The state that keeps the Northeast running while the Northeast pretends it does not exist. Every state in America is organized around its own center, its own capital, its own dominant city, its own gravity well pulling people, money, and identity inward. New Jersey is the only state organized entirely around other people's gravity wells. And that is what makes it the true opposite, not of any single state, but of the very idea of what an American state is supposed to be. Return to the opening image. 566 municipalities. No dominant city. The densest population in America scattered across a peninsula with no center of gravity. The place the rest of the country laughs at is the most structurally unusual state in the Union. New Jersey is not a state that failed to build a center. It is a state that proves you do not need one. Every other state was built around a city. New Jersey was built around everybody else's. If this changed the way you see the Garden State, check out the recommended videos on screen and subscribe for more.